So are you saying that I've taken Peter V'landys out of his comfort zone?
Yeah, you have. Yeah, not many do. So that's one for you. But yeah, I'm out of my comfort zone, and you always are when you speak about yourself. You know, because you don't like speaking about yourself. You don't want to be this guy that's got a big head or a...
But you've got a good story.
It's a good story, but as I said, there's a lot of people that have made it a story, not just me.
Peter V'landys, I can tell you, he's the best thing's happened to racing for a long, long time.
Peter V'landys is the most bold racing administrator I've had the pleasure of working with.
Generates a lot of controversy. You could call him polarising.
Very straight down the line what he wants with racing and where he wants to go.
Behind that facade, he's as soft as a marshmallow.
Every time we hang out together, he's soft and cuddly.
He cares about people, he cares about his sport, he cares about all those involved in his sport. But at times, when he's defending, he's as ferocious as a pit bull.
Have you ever seen that?
I've seen it, I've experienced it.
Peter's a tough guy, he's dedicated, he knows what he wants to do, and he gets the job done.
When you're trying to run a sport, whether it's racing or whether it's rugby league, shrinking violets don't succeed. You've got to be upfront with your views. He is, but he's respected. That's the important thing, he's respected.
October 2017 saw a shock arrival of a new event on the horse racing calendar. It was daringly right smack bang in the middle of the prestigious and historic Spring Carnival, but it wasn't in Melbourne. It's named the Everest. Run in Sydney, this was a sprint race with $10 million in prize money on offer. This made it the richest horse race in Australia, more than the Caulfield Cup and the Melbourne Cup. It was in a league of its own. The Everest is bold, brash and disruptive, and it's on again this year. This documentary takes a look at the man who dared to take on the establishment and make it all happen. And we follow some other passionate players, slot owners who have caught the Everest bug and are looking for their horse for the next big October run. The Star Entertainment Group own one of the 12 slots in the Everest field.
Mate, one thing that I'm failing to understand through this whole find a horse business is what is actually a slot?
Easy. With a regular horse race, you own a horse, you pay an entrance fee, and the horse is in that race and it runs. You can't do that with the Everest. The Everest is a race that's owned by 12 slot holders. So effectively, you might have the best horse in the world, but it's not getting into that race unless it's through a slot holder.
A slot in the Everest race costs $600,000, but that doesn't get you a horse, just the right or slot to run a horse in the race. This is where last year's Everest winner came from, the Inglis yearling sales in Sydney. Tell us the procedure that happens before a sale.
Well, the process of selecting yearlings, and these are young horses here for our auction, starts about 12 months before each auction. Our bloodstock team go out in the field, and they're effectively like talent scouts.
We're here looking after the owner's interests. We're trying to find the best horse at the best price. And by that I mean value for money. Sometimes the value for money might be $1 million. Sometimes it might be 50 or 100,000. We're looking for that champion, that jewel in the crown.
To the untrained eye, like myself, they all look the same to me. What are the people here looking for? What's the best type of horse?
Well, they're looking at the stallion, the father. You know, are they precocious? Is it what they're after? They're looking at the conformation, the physical attributes of each horse and then the temperament, how well behaved they are, because that's sort of a sign how trainable they're going to be to go and perform in a race like the Everest.
There's a few rowdy boys out there as well.
Just like with young teenage boys, they've got to have the right temperament and focus and the ability to win.
Mark, do you reckon that there is a future Everest winner out there?
No one ever knows exactly where they're going to come from, but the horses here have got all the right attributes to go on and compete in the Everest or any of those top-line sprinting races.
Dad told me years ago, he said, when you go to the sales, you buy a champion. And I said, how do you know? How do you know what a champion is? He said, you just train your eye to find the horse that's got the perfect, not perfect action, but it's got an essence about him, a sexiness, I call it, and moves in a way that he carries himself like an athlete, because that's what you're buying. You're buying an athlete.
Well, this boy behind me is exactly what Mark's been talking about. It has all the attributes. There's 5,000 yearlings sold in Australia each year. This one is in the top 5. Doesn't get any better than this. It's a beauty.
The buyers immediately spot the potential of horse number 400, and the price quickly heads into the millions.
At $2.3 million, he goes done. 2.3 million, thank you, Matt.
Did you expect it to go for that price?
We all sort of guessed, and we all sort of had, we kind of thought he would sell for a good price, but, that probably blows expectations a bit. That's awesome for the farm.
Good luck. Well done.
Well done. Thank you.
There's a lot of theatre involved, isn't there? A lot of shouting. It's not like a typical auction like buying a house, is it?
People come here to buy a horse, but they're buying the whole experience. They just enjoy bidding and competing. So for a lot of the owners or people that are buying horses, the competition starts here before it starts on the track.
Would it be good advice for me just to stand still and not maybe put my hand up or do anything?
Well, if you go inside that room and stick your hand up, you'll be taking something home.
The winner of the first Everest race in 2017 was Redzel. He's on offer to slot owners again for this year's race. And while the yearling sales continue, Mark, who is charged with finding a horse for his company's slot, has an important meeting upstairs.
I've had an approach from the owners of Redzel, and they've expressed interest in the English slot for this year. Noting Redzel won last year, I'm very keen to talk to them just to see where they're at. What sort of deal they want to put together. Redzel ran very well. He obviously won the Everest last year. Being an English graduate, we're keen to talk to you about whether he can represent the company in October.
I think he's going to present as the best opportunity for you guys as a company. You're probably trying to marry up the promotional side of things, the financial side of things. I think he'd be an ideal fit for English.
He's a strong muscle machine. He's fast. We already know that. He's the best sprinter Australia's had over the last few years, and he won last year's Everest. So it wouldn't matter now if he's got a leg on backwards. He knows how to gallop. Probably the most challenging part of this is working out how to carve up the prize money. Noting we've got to put up $600,000 as a slot owner every year. The costs are significant, so we need to work out what a fair arrangement is there. Money is important. We're still waiting on Peter to put out the final allocation of prize money, but I'm just trying to pick up whether I've got the right vibe from these guys, how much they want us, and they're trying to work out how much we want them before I put a number on the table. Our brand is important. How important is that red Triple Crown brand to you, and would you consider racing Redzel in English blue?
Obviously the red is important to us. It is. It's the colour that our owners identify with. It's the team. The team is represented by the red, so it is something that we'd want incorporated into the race. But whether we can work something out between us and do something, maybe a special edition for the day between the red and the blue, that's something we can discuss further.
Right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, mate.
See you.
Happy shopping.
Thank you.
So, Mark, how did you go?
Well, I think it was a good first meeting. We were trying to eye each other off and see who wants this more than the other.
What were the sticking points?
I think the colours the horse will run in. Obviously the horse won it last year, so that's really important. So I am prepared to negotiate. We're talking about a horse to represent Inglis here in our company, and it is a bit like a footy team where you want to have a horse running in your colours representing your company. We're blue, they're red. you know, where do we go from here?
Winning the Everest race last year proves that Redzel is one of the fastest sprinters in Australia. The horse is owned by a syndicate of 8 people, and one of those owners is Peter Pyrus.
It hasn't been an easy time for Peter Pyrus. He's been through hell and back: cancer, bone marrow transplants and kidney disease. But the best remedy that he has is this horse called Redzel.
Hey, how are you, big boy? Hello, Doc. Come here, Doc, it's me.
You call him Doc?
Yes.
Why's that?
This is me doctor. Aren't you? In the last few months, I put on 12 kilos, and I think it's all because of the way he makes me feel. And he's such a beautiful animal, friendly. He's usually nipping on me or biting in, friendly bites, but...
Tell us a little bit about your health problems.
Well, they didn't know for a couple of years. I was in and out of hospital for 2-3 years. They didn't know what was wrong. Then a doctor at the medical centre noticed that my spleen was enlarged and found that I had CML leukemia, which they said if I didn't get a transplant or something, I'll be dead in 3 years. In June the 10th, 99, I got a transplant off my brother, Michael, and thank God to him. And I've had to fight hard.
Without organ donation,
I wouldn't be here.
This bloke wouldn't be alive today, thanks to his brother who kept him alive through bone marrow.
Thank you, Mick, for
so
this.
become organ donors because
brother.
without it, this guy here wouldn't be here. But unbelievable day.
Unreal. I can't believe it. Slap me! All the wins are amazing, but the Everest, for 3 weeks after, it felt like I was floating. I was like walking on air.
You picked up a fair bit of money last year for the win in the Everest. What did you do with the loot?
I gave it to my parents,
Why
like
was
I
that?
promised, to help them so they could retire earlier. Because we own a family business down in Magong, restaurant, Italian, traditional. We've got a lot of regular customers and a lot of loyal supporters of Redzel. Every day, every customer asks, how's the boy? How is he? See how smart he is? He knows Daddy's here, look.
For a racehorse, he's very calm.
He is very calm.
That's a little unusual, isn't it? They're usually a bit toey.
Yeah. But this one's a very smart horse. He knows he doesn't need to do anything like that or be silly. He's a smart boy, aren't you?
What do you love about him?
Just his gentle nature and the way he makes me feel.
It seems like, you know, all the money spent on specialists and doctors, all you needed to do was buy a horse.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep, and spend time with him, go visit him. And it's amazing what a horse can do. It just makes me feel trust, don't you? Hey.
Another syndicate owner is Damien Yates.
Hello, Dean K Electrical.
He cobbled together just a few $1,000s to get a slice of the Redzel action. And in October 2017, his punt paid off in spades.
There's the red!
Damien the electrician.
G'day, how you going?
Good, thanks, mate.
Yeah.
What are you going to show us?
Mate, you've got to come in to see my Redzel man cave. This is where it's all happening.
Redzel man cave. This will be good.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate.
Redzel. Come on over here and check this out.
Wow.
It's Redzel Corner.
Mate, you really love this horse, don't you?
Oh, mate, it gives me so much happiness. That much happiness.
Why does it make you so happy?
Well, you get on the racetrack and watch this thing run over the finish line from start to finish. The elation, pure joy. Mate, when I first went into the horse, I said to my wife, if I get a runner down the straight at Randwick on any day of the week, whether it's a trial or anything, I'll be happy. And this is where it's taken us.
Where do you put on the pedestal higher? Your wife and kids or or this horse?
Do I have to answer that?
You should
Of course,
answer.
of course,
I
the
think you
wife
should
and kids.
answer
Of
it
course,
straight
of
away.
course, the wife and kids. She may be listening.
Very good answer. Just in regards to this horse, it's not just yourself, it's a whole syndicate. You guys must be having the time of your life.
Yeah, we've become a pretty close-knit group now. We get to go to the races. We pat each other on the back when it wins, but yeah, we're a pretty close-knit group now.
All walks of life. I mean, you're an electrician. I mean, I suppose it shows that you don't have to be a high roller to be involved in something like this.
Well, this is what I like getting into this horse racing industry. And I'm just a battling electrician, but I have beers with barristers, the top echelon of bankers, and we go to the racetrack and we're just people.
Couple of lucky horseshoes, I see.
Yeah, so these are actually two shoes from winning Everest race last year. Yeah, I've got a spot reserved right here for this year. Hopefully, he's hoping.
That's pretty unique to get them.
Oh, it is, mate. Yeah. They're priceless. They're priceless. But when I come through the front door, that's what I see every day I come home.
So we won't be seeing them on eBay soon, will we?
Not a chance. Not a chance. I put an alarm system in the house when I put them up.
Just in regards to last year, what was the feeling like when it was coming down the straight and crossing the line in the Everest?
Well, at about the 250, 300 metre mark, I knew they were in a pretty good position. And then when it got to that final furlong and just shot away and put distance into a pretty quality field, it was pretty something else. I can't explain the feeling like, what has just happened? What has just happened? We've gone and won the richest horse race on turf. Like, it was amazing.
How much money did you get out of it?
I got about 100 grand.
What did you do with it?
We'll have a saying, Michael, if I don't go to the ATM on the way home, I haven't had a good night, I haven't spent it properly. So, yeah, needless to say, I come home on Tuesday.
It's just been announced the prize money for the 2018 Everest race has been increased to $13 million. So slot owners, The Star, have decided this is the time to go public.
So it's a very exciting morning for us today. We're going to announce our launch at the second Everest race. So when we arrive at the Star, we're going to get the trophy out of the boot, and hopefully then we'll have two security guards who will escort both of us, the money and the trophy, up to the penthouse at the Darling, where we'll reveal the trophy and announce our challenge for this year.
It sounds like a little bit of pressure transporting $13 million worth of cash and $500,000 worth of trophy.
That's why we have two big security guards.
Why is it so important for the Star to be involved in this race?
Well, I think we saw last year that it was a race that captivated not just Sydney, I think Australia. And for us, it offers a whole load of opportunities to get behind the race, to activate our property, but also to take something which was a race last year and try and help build it into a festival for Sydney.
Well, in true casino style, the Star have decided they're in, and there's no half measures. The money's on the table, the trophy's out on display, the CEO's on the front foot. But the question still remains, why does a casino want to be involved with a horse race?
Well, you know, we're a lot more than a casino. Every year we get about 11 million people that come to this property here. And of those 11 million people, there's a lot of tourists, there's a lot of locals. And so everything we do here at this integrated resort is try to be part of things that are going on in the city. You know, when the race came up, that was such a quintessential Sydney thing to do. It is the biggest prize, it's an innovation, it's a bit brash, it's a little bit, you know, cheeky relative to the Melbourne Cup. And we thought that's very much who we think we are and who we relate to.
Peter's got a vision of this race rivaling the Melbourne Cup one day. Do you share that same vision?
Look, I'll leave it to the people that run the racing industry to paint that big picture. For us, what I'd like this to be is part of our calendar, you know, where we can really celebrate for a week or more horse racing in Sydney, and I don't see why Sydney shouldn't be the best place to do that.
Do you feel that Sydney lets itself down a little bit when it comes to sporting events? Do you feel that it needs to pump itself up a bit and maybe have more, big name events just like the Everest?
Yeah, no, we can do a lot more, and that's what Peter and his team, they really have to be applauded, because with the Everest, we have created one of those iconic opportunities. But from a personal point of view, as somebody who works in the tourism industry, I think Sydney can do a lot more to compete for the big events and have large sports events here.
Now you've got a slot in the race. Pretty important now to get a horse.
Yeah.
Who decides that?
You know what? We actually have a couple of people who know what they're doing, and so I totally stay out of that.
Now just say your horse gets up and wins. Does that mean that there's free drinks in every bar in the start?
Probably not, no. Unless you want to put something on the table here.
Well, I'm at the finishing line, but when it comes to shooting this documentary, we're halfway through and we haven't met the man of the moment, Peter V'landys, yet. He's a hard man to track down, and I sense that he's not comfortable with doing this. He's a busy man and he's given us a window of opportunity, and we just have to take it. Thanks for joining us. You're a very hard man to nail down, aren't you?
Oh, pretty busy, yeah. I mean, there's a lot going on, unfortunately, in my life at the moment, so it is hard to nail me down. I pass myself coming back in the foyer, so that's how busy I am.
But you seem to like being busy, don't you?
Look, it's got its moments. It certainly makes life more interesting when you do things that you're passionate about.
Peter, your father, Nicholas, worked in the steelworks in Wollongong. A big work ethic, double shifts. Did that rub off on you at an early age?
I'd like to be measured as half as good as what he was on work ethic. I've never seen a man sacrifice so much for his family. So his work ethic certainly in me, and we were from a poor family, so we never had things easy. And that builds your character, builds you as a person. I think that watching my father, work 18, 20 hours a day certainly installed work ethic in me. And he had me working at the age of 8 and 9, doing milk runs and paper runs and service stations, and I was a furniture removalist at the age of 16. So I've never had it easy, and I wouldn't take a moment of that back, because if I could emulate my father in any way, I'd be a proud man. Greek immigrants, was that tough from the start in regards to, I suppose, being ostracised in Australia at the time? Absolutely. Look, unfortunately, when you're kids, they can be unkind, and so I was a new kid on the block, couldn't speak English. I was only 4, went to kindergarten, and like any other kid, I was bullied. Being Greek, and so it was pretty tough, but again, it builds your character, it builds the person that you are, and I think if I didn't have it tough, I probably wouldn't be who I am now. I take it no one would be calling Peter V'landys a wog anymore? I don't think so. I think with the political correctness in the society these days, I think they'd find it tough, but look, I was called a wog many times as a kid, and I don't think the other kids realised how much they hurt you when they said that, and I got in more fights than you could believe. When they called me a wog, I didn't take too kind to it, and I didn't care what size they were. I took them on, and again, I wouldn't change it for a moment. It built me for who I am.
You've got to remember, he came from a migrant background, so you've got to do it tough. On the way up, you've got to work hard, play hard, do all those things to succeed, and he's done all that.
A lot of people reckon that you're a head kicker. Is that right?
No, sometimes, not all the time. And it depends, and not physically anyway.
Oh, really?
Certainly in metaphorically, but you got to be. You can't take things for granted. You've got to go in there and fight.
Yeah, look, I understand the reputation of a head kicker. What I find, though, is someone with common sense, practical common sense, who's got the courage to express his views.
I don't think you can fake who you are in the business world or elsewhere. And so I've known Peter for probably a decade, even more. And, what has impressed me is just that he's a very straight shooter. He's forceful, but he's an absolute straight shooter. And, I'm Swiss. We kind of relate on that level. It's not very complicated to do business with him.
If it's an issue, you go hard on that issue. If it's an agreement and you want a certain condition or you want a certain aspect of that agreement, well, you've got to go hard. No good sitting back and being disappointed that you didn't say something after you left the meeting or you didn't get something that you really wanted for your organisation.
The Everest Trophy is being taken around to all the slot owners, and today it's the turn of the Inglis camp.
Is that different to last year? I don't think we had.
More white diamonds.
Yeah.
Good measure. And we added a year because it's given away every year, so that way it's easy to know which one's which.
What's a photo?
Yeah. Can we get a photo?
Yeah.
There's no doubt the hype and excitement of this year's Everest is mounting.
Oh, that is kind of heavy.
But behind the smiles, there's also a tension in the air concerning negotiations for securing their horse for the race.
So he said, if I did go onto the Everest, could he represent Inglis? And I said, of course he could. Yeah, let's talk about a deal. And I put to him the terms that I thought were reasonable. And he said, oh, my terms are very different to that.
It seems the guys representing last year's winning horse Redzell have been playing hardball and Mark has been pushed aside.
What happened?
We got gazumped.
Can you believe it?
Well, look, this is the horse industry and people are always doing deals and very focused on what's in it for them. And in this case, look, we thought we had a deal for Redzell. He won it last year. He's an English graduate. Michael and Chris were very good in the meeting, but they've taken a stronger offer, and it's from a good client of ours, a Chinese gentleman, Mr. Zhang.
That must sting a bit because you've got a bit of a history there.
Yeah, look, we brought Mr. Zhang out to Australia 7 years ago as an investor. We spent a lot of time nurturing him. So when he comes in over the top and takes you out, I guess we had to think carefully about whether we were going to fight back. In this case, we've decided not to.
So where do you go from here? The time's ticking, the race isn't far away. More pressure on you guys?
More pressure, yeah. Look, we've had other owners on hold, just depending on whether we were to get last year's winner in Redzell. We haven't, so we're back to the drawing board.
So are you worried?
I am worried because a lot of the horses that have already taken slots for this race are English graduates. So there's only a limited pool. You know, we thought this was the one. There are others in contention, but I guess it's time that I get back on the phone and chase them up.
Sounds like you need to put the blinkers on and get a giddy up.
And get a whip.
Meanwhile, over at the Star, they're having similar problems. There's only so many horses in the country that are up to running in the Everest, and they're fast being snapped up by the slot owners.
You must be sweating bullets, eh? Yeah, that's fair to say, a little nervous. I'm just looking at the website here for the Everest, and you can see each slot owner and whether they've filled their position with a horse, and most of them have filled.
You must be feeling the pressure.
Yeah. It's there's a balancing act. You want to get in early and you want the right horse, the quality horse, but at the same time, you don't want to go so early that you have no idea about the form before the race, you know. So it is a balancing act.
And a little bit of a gamble, I suppose, in regards to what horse you pick well before race time.
Oh, you know, you are speculating. You go early, you run the risks of the horse not being ready to race, falling out of form, going lame, getting injured, getting sick. So, but at the same time, you don't go in and you wait too long. All the quality sprinters are snapped up.
Are you copping a little bit of pressure from above?
Yeah, the business wants to do well. So, you know, we've got to go out there and get the right horse.
Do you feel like you're a little bit out of your comfort zone doing this?
Yeah, it's interesting, but we're certainly newcomers compared to, you know, Yulong Investments and Max Whitby and Inglis.
Another Saturday race day at Randwick and another chance to win the hearts and minds of the country.
For most of us, a day like today is about rest and relaxation, but for Peter V'landys, it's anything but. He's got his game face on today and he's very much in his element.
For me, it's a day at work because I want to promote racing, and these are the people you've got to promote it to. These are the decision makers. These are the people that can better the sport. So I want to make sure they have a good time and appreciate how good the sport is, what it contributes to the New South Wales economy and to the social well-being of Australia.
To his credit, he does ensure that the racing industry gets exposure to the right people, so whether they're politicians, whether they're journalists, whether they're racing enthusiasts. His function's always well attended and they always have good fun.
The majority of people in here are the major decision makers in New South Wales. They're the ones you rely on for funding, etc., and the taxing, and plus with all the media. You'd never do it unless you had that relationship, and this room breeds that relationship.
Would you make a good politician?
I don't think I've got the patience for it. I think there's a level of spin, and I don't think I'd enjoy that part of it, you know. So no, I probably wouldn't make a good politician because I'd be too impatient.
How good would he be in politics?
Look, I reckon he'd be extraordinarily good because he not only has visions, he knows how to implement those visions. I think at times, though, you know, Talkback Radio, Jones and the others would have some great battles with him on air if they were trying to oppose him. Look, Peter's great strength is he sets a goal and will let nothing get in the way of delivering that goal. So if you get a state premier like that, how much better would the state be?
In 2007, Peter V'landys's political persuasion abilities were put to the ultimate test.
7 others in the same stable have also returned positive tests. The illness so contagious, it's now certain the virus will spread through all 700 horses which are stabled at the track.
Equine influenza had hit New South Wales, threatening to decimate the horse racing industry.
The look on their faces said it all. The news was grim.
It is the darkest day of the industry in New South Wales, no doubt about that whatsoever. It's as I've called it, it's a natural disaster. There's 50,000 participants now that can't earn a wage out of racing. We want some compensation for our industry. If it's been an act of negligence by someone at the quarantine centre, someone's got to pay up.
You negotiated a deal with the federal government when the equine influenza outbreak happened. Was that the toughest meeting you've ever walked into?
Absolutely, because I think that the industry's future was, in the balance. I don't think people realise how bad it was. They offered us $5 million as compensation, which I thought was ridiculous, and we ended up getting $235 million. And I've got to compliment John Howard. He understood the crisis. He understood there's 50,000 participants that live on this industry. Racing is a part of Australia's DNA. People love it. It's part of the fabric of our society. So when it was under threat, a way of Australian life was under threat. So, a lot of people were dependent upon me, and I take that responsibility quite seriously. Even though it was John Howard and he was the Prime Minister of Australia, we had a laugh. I think humour is a great asset that you need to have in these things, and we got along famously, and he understood it was a crisis. He understood that we needed help, and he helped.
As an administrator, do you feel that situation where you got that money out of the federal government, it put you on another level as an administrator?
It certainly gave me greater self-esteem and confidence to be negotiating with the Prime Minister of Australia. When you're a 4-year-old immigrant boy from Wollongong whose father was a steelworker, to be sitting in the office talking and negotiating with the Prime Minister of Australia certainly makes you feel better about yourself, no doubt about that. And you look back and you think, when I was 4-year-old and getting bullied in kindergarten, the last thing I ever thought I'd be is sitting in the office of the Prime Minister.
In regards to the Everest, it's only 1 year old. Has it got scope for greatness, do you think?
It has, because as I said, this is this generation's event. So, and already it's the most publicised, talked about race in Australia. And that's what attracted me to the Everest. It was going to generate publicity. When you've got a bloke that's paid $600,000 for a slot, they've got to go and find the best horse. And that's a challenge in itself. The negotiations that occur, who's after this horse, who's after that horse, that generates publicity. And that's what attracted me to it more than anything else, is I knew it was going to be controversial and I knew it was going to get a lot of publicity.
The Everest race day draws closer and the news has picked up for Mark Inglis, who has been dealing with a horse owner in Europe.
So what's this?
We've got the signature from the south of France, mate.
Is that a relief?
Yeah, it's a great relief to finally have our runner for the race, and yeah, he's a star in the rise, this horse.
So you've got some people who want to congratulate you.
Well done.
Yeah,
Very
that's
exciting.
great.
Great choice.
It means a lot to these people as well, doesn't it?
Oh, I think so. I think everyone in the company wants to see the English flag being flown in a race like this. It is the most exciting new race in the world, and I think we've got a horse that can win it, and it was sold at an English sale in Melbourne.
Better file this, don't lose it.
I won't be losing it. He's just got to do the job now.
How much stress has it been on you for the last few weeks?
Oh yeah, there's pressure. The media are always calling, wanting to know who a runner is, and of course, lots of owners out there lobbying to get their horse in our colours. But we've been holding our powder a little dry this year, waiting for the right horse, and the horse we've selected has won his last 2 starts at Group 1 level, and we're pretty happy about that. This is Santa Ana Lane here in the blue.
Wow.
You can see he just takes off at this point.
Hands and heels.
Hands and heels, wins by a few lengths. Last year's winner of the Everest came out of the Brisbane Carnival. Fortunately, that horse didn't win this year, but Santa Ana Lane is won his last 2 starts at Group 1 level. Great timing for us. We're delighted. We've got a horse on the improve. And look at that. Look at that. He did it easy.
Did it easy. So last year that was Red Zell.
Yeah, last year Red Zell didn't win this race, but he won a Group 1 in Brisbane at the same time. You can say that, I can't.
But this horse has got everything you want, every quality.
This is what people here in Australia aspire to have. A horse of that quality. He's won over $2 million and he's on the improve. This horse has awesome potential.
Mark, you sound excited.
I'm ready to go. This is an awesome horse.
The Stars' attempts to secure a horse for their slot in the Everest has also taken a turn for the better. Nick has travelled down to the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria to finalise the deal.
We've got Charles ready for you to have a look at.
Brilliant. Very excited. Let's go. The Shoals is down here?
Yeah.
Here she is. Looks beautiful.
She's a high quality mare. She's won 3 Group 1s, which I think only 1 or 2 horses won more than that this season.
Right.
She's on her way up. She's still improving, and I think you'll see the very best of her this preparation.
It's very exciting. She looks great. We did the deal with 2 owners of Shoals. We're very happy to partner with Jonathan Munns and John Massaro, who own the horse, and the Star Entertainment Group as the slot owner presents it for the race. So it's going to be a great partnership, and we're very excited about Shoals.
She's not very big, but from a physical point of view, she's got a very big, strong back end,
okay,
which is where you get all your drive from. So she's not very tall, but huge engine inside, big heart. We've checked all that out. It's all spot on.
We're happy. We're relieved. I'm a relieved person. I think the Star's ready to go. They are after a win this year. We didn't get a win last year, so we really are hungry for a win this year. Who do you think's a danger to watch out for?
Look, it's such a there'll be 12 high quality horses there.
And Vega's there again.
Yeah, look, Vega Magic's going to be there. Red Zell's defending the race. He's going to be at his best. This horse Nature Strip's sort of come on the scene lately, but I wouldn't rule out, any other 2 or 3 others on the day. If the race is run the way that horse needs it run, they're all good enough to win it.
This can be a real Festival of Sydney, and we want to back that Festival of Sydney. We can say, right before that key moment in spring when everyone looks to Melbourne, hey, we're here, get ready, lock yourself in for what is the richest turf race in the world.
Do you feel that the administrators that run the Melbourne Cup, they're jumping at shadows?
I think so. Look, Victoria do things very well. I mean, New South Wales really is disappointing. I mean, we've got the greatest city in the world in Sydney. They've got some dreary, miserable city, but they get all the events. We've got everything going for us, but we don't get the events. We don't celebrate New South Wales like they celebrate in Victoria. I'd like to take that parochialism of Victorians and bring it into New South Wales. They want to get the tennis open, they want to get the golf, they want to get the car races. What do? We sit back and watch. And what do? We celebrate the Melbourne Cup, which is an interstate event. I don't want to do that. I'm a proud New South Wales person. I want to have my own event celebrating, New South Wales here in New South Wales.
The Everest. Is that on the bucket list for you?
It certainly is on the bucket list.
The Everest is charismatic, it's new, it's disruptive, and it's out there to attract the younger generation. Last year, 74% of the audience was under 35, and that's what the Everest is trying to attract, the next generation. It's a disruptive event. We're in everyone's face. We make no apology for it.
The Melbourne Cup's been going 150 years. The Everest is something new.
We are in competition because I want to be in competition. I want to be as big as the Melbourne Cup. If you don't have ambition and if you don't have drive and objective, you won't get anywhere.
The big races in Melbourne, the Cox Plate, the Caulfield Cup and the Melbourne Cup, and I don't think we've taken a horse from either of those races to race in the Everest. So hopefully we can get along.
Competition should not be a concern to them. If there's no competition, people become apathetic and they think that people will come to the races. They won't. You need to promote, you need to innovate. Sitting back on your bum will not do that.
He's not going to be stopped by popular opinion. If he has strong conviction, he's going to go for it. And I think the industry does need a bold leader, and I'm delighted to be part of it with him.
Well, Sydney's answer to the Melbourne Cup is nearly upon us, a $13 million run. And word has it in years to come, that figure is set to rise. The Everest is shaking up the establishment, and it's driven by passionate players. Do you think he can go back to back?
I think so. I honestly do. He just has a determination to win.
I get a feeling that I haven't got enough red on.
Mate, here's some red.
Do I look better now?
Oh yeah, you look $1 million. You're ready for the Everest.
Damien, life hasn't been serving you lemons at the moment. What are you going to do if it wins again this year?
I'll be doing a bit of this. Woo! Yeah!
Cheering on Red Zell at the Everest. What would it be like?
It'll be there. Go Red!
Go Red! Go Red! Come on, Red! Come on! Yes! Yes! Yes, Red! Come on! UT! Yes! Yes! We won it! Are you going to give me your prize money?
It's the richest race on turf in the world, and it's the richest race in Australia. The buzz and the atmosphere that's been here today is unprecedented in my time in racing, and I've been at Racing New South Wales for 14 years. I haven't seen a crowd this big. I haven't seen excitement like this. It's just been phenomenal.